welcome to this week's edition of The Magnate. And you know that this is a continuation of our conversation we started in previous edition. We are dedicating some few episodes to the enlightenment of COVID-19, that is the coronavirus. We want to be seen to be also be socially responsible by bringing the resource persons to enlighten us. Yes, the program is The Magnate. It's meant to bring out the business in you. When you are healthy, that's when you think about business. We've had quite a bit of conversation on the previous edition of the program, and I still have a resource person here, the Director of Central Research Laboratory, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Professor Sunday Aremu Omilabu. You're welcome back to the program,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you for your patience.
My pleasure.
Thank you for spending the time with us.
Thank you.
I know your presence is highly needed at this time. Now, we halted where we were talking about enlightenment, people in a state of denial and all that. You know, just paint a typical day of your lab with us. I mean, particularly when we have a lot of people coming down now, when you started and the way it's kept progressing, having more number of people, you know, coming down with it. How overwhelmed are you? Are you not scared that, God forbid, because we hear a lot of people in your profession in the front line contact this thing, even abroad?
Thank you very much. Yes, it can be scary, but like I used to say, we've been trained to handle viral containing samples. So there are procedures, and before you walk in the lab, we first of all take you through the procedures. And this is very, very critical because you have to apply this procedure so that you can live to act on more samples. So that's the first thing. As a newcomer into the laboratory, you have to stay 2 weeks or more learning about the laboratory procedures. So it starts from the laboratory flow, how samples come in, where will the people bring in samples, where will they go, who will receive samples from them, and what form of protection must you wear to receive samples, and you know where to take such samples, you know where to open, you know where to store.
Okay.
So these are procedures that we follow. So, and that's what we call the lab flow. And we know when you come into such a lab like ours, where we're dealing with dangerous pathogens, we restrict movement. It's not for public
Not for all comers.
commerce. Just say that, in fact, now you can see that even in our lab, or where we are located, you don't even have people coming around.
Danger zone.
There's less of
Influx.
people's traffic around the area. In fact, they have to even take a longer path so that they can at least avoid passing through our own area. So we restrict movement into the laboratory. And all of us in the laboratory, we are well trained. So we trained severally in a lot of programs, even abroad. So we cannot run away. So we know that we have to get to the root of the cause.
But those that come down with it, those professionals, those in the front line that come down with it, what do they do? Is it that they don't comply with what they are supposed to do, even with their protective gadgets?
Many a times, we don't know how the virus moves. So in the course of attending to patients, so we don't even know when you are where you are, you don't know how much of virus particles are already in the vicinity. There are things that we cannot see with our eyes. So that's number one. And so we don't have to take chances. We have to make sure we use our PPE. And many a times they may run out of PPE and then think that, okay, it's just for us, 1 second, let me do this. And of course, when you are overwhelmed with patients, the possibility of releasing virus particles in the area is high. So whether you like it or not, the inhalation may come in, and once it comes in, the virus will germinate and spread. So you can't rule it out.
Okay.
So that's why when they say that they are on the front line, because when you go into the battle war, so when you carry a weapon, so you use weapon to attack enemies. So that's the the interpretation to it. So we all make sure that we, as far as we can, professionally cover ourselves, we have to apply all these gadgets. And that's why we talk of PPE, that we protect our face. That N95 is very, very critical, so that we don't inhale the particles. So many a times, and we don't have this enough, N95. So you know that for obvious reasons, the whole world is already overwhelmed. So, and we don't produce in country. So it's one of the lessons. So there are a lot of things that we have to produce in country, like all these PPE, all those gadgets, even the reagents that we use. Many a times we run out of the reagents, so we have to wait until we are replenished. So those are some of the lessons learned from this outbreak.
Okay.
So that's,
now, is it true that somebody who has successfully been treated of it will not stand a chance to come down with it again, just like any other viral disease?
I've been saying that the virus is still very, very new. The whole world don't know much about the virus. You can see that WHO keeps coming on from time to time, changing the goalpost, depending on the new findings about the virus particle. Normally, if one is exposed to a pathogen and you are able to respond very well and suppress it, so that individual should not be able to come down again. That's the principle of immunization. So we're talking of vaccine. If we prepare vaccine and give to people, the vaccine is expected to stimulate their immune reaction, their response, so that they can have soldiers enough. So once you are now being exposed to a deadly type now, you should be able to suppress without much ado. So that's the science of immunology. But so we're trying to see how the virus is going to behave. Whether it's going to behave like some viruses that we've had in the past. We know of flu. Flu had been plaguing us for decades, and it comes in form of outbreaks, pandemics, just as this COVID. It comes in pandemic in every 10 to 15 years. So we were there when talk of swine flu in 1999. So we know there's going to be another one. Another flu now, a pandemic one. So because we know the virus is not stable. So immunity against last one doesn't cross-protect against the new one coming.
Really?
So we still need to study this SARS-CoV-2 very well before we can jump into conclusion. Maybe the immunity developed against the strain now, whether it can cross-protect over the years. So we need to we need a lot of work to do on that.
Okay. Well, this is the Magnate. We cannot talk about whatever discussion on this program without us making reference to money making. I'm sure you have made a lot of money from this. The front line, a lot of people have been agitating, special allowances. It's the Magnate. How much are you smiling to the bank now, sir?
The irony of the whole thing is that we work in the lab. We are yet to see the money. In fact, the confusion has to do with the fact that most of the labs, they come from different departments, from different institutions. Majority of us, we are not LUT staff. Some of the staff in my lab, majority of them belong to College of Medicine, University of Lagos, so they are not under LUT. So I'm the only one under the LUT. I'm a consultant in LUT. So I'm the hospital virologist. So by that virtue, I'm covered with whatever is coming from the federal. And of course, the state government has been doing a lot. So the state government has been taking care of all the laboratory staff. In fact, when you had earlier on that, how have been coping in terms of handling samples? So we had to recruit a number of volunteers.
Exactly.
So that's
volunteer service.
Volunteers, exactly. So we had to recruit more than 15, 20 volunteers to assist us in the laboratory, in LSB, Lagos State Biobank, and the Charlesville lab in LUT. So I'm coordinating the 2 laboratories. So we're talking of additional 20 laboratories.
Responsibilities.
Not people collecting samples. You're talking of sample collections.
Diagnosing.
So hundreds of volunteers are being used. And yet we are not there.
But this agitation of our allowance is being, which is even resulting to industrial action
yes,
and all that.
Yes. The state has promised that it will pay those that are not in the federal, the teaching hospitals, those that are not captured. The state government will pay all those the medical allowances.
It's a call for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So he has always asked for, they should just let them know the balance.
Okay. So we are talking to a reputable virologist, the director, Central Research Laboratory, Lagos University Teaching Hospital. I'm sure you have learned quite a bit from him. Well, we're talking about people in a state of denial, people don't understand. Do they really understand? Or they just, not challenged about it? Let's feel their pulse. Let's go on the streets. Let's talk to them. Let's know exactly what they understand about coronavirus, the pandemic, COVID-19. How is it affecting everybody? We'll be back shortly to conclude this very stimulating discussion.
Am I thinking about those things that's happening right now? I think believing what they were doing, like doing what is right at the right time, I think that is good, because eventually it now comes up like, okay, they are now allowing everybody to come out and do whatever they like. The virus is real, like the COVID-19 is real, but some people does not believe it anyway. But in Nigeria here, due to how government and everything and our economic, I think we are not of the same feather. So everybody are trying to work out and get something to eat. So I think it really affects us, seriously. It really affects everybody.
The economic situation in Nigeria right now is very poor and very bad, because right now poverty is increasing, hunger is increasing, and a lot of criminal activities are increasing too. And the way that I'm seeing it, the government are doing nothing about it, and it's very bad and very poor about the thing.
It affects a lot in the sense that everybody is not free to do whatever they like, and you can see businesses are shutting down. They are not up like before. Sometimes you even go out to buy things, you might not get it, and a lot of things. And we believe that the pandemic that affects the other countries as well, there's no how we can move to other countries and get stuff like goods and all the rest. So I think it really affects everybody. So it's not only, it affects everybody.
Welcome back. The program is still the Magnate, even though we are talking medical. We are talking coronavirus. We are talking the pandemic. How is it related? You need to be healthy, bringing out the business in you. Now, I still have with us here, we are now on our last lap on the program today, and we are blessed, endowed. To bring him out of the lab is like putting a thread across the needle. You know what that means. A virologist of repute, an internationally acclaimed one, the director, Central Research Laboratory, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Professor Sunday Omilabu. Thank you for still staying with us, sir.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, now let's round off this conversation. What is your counsel to your, first of all, let's start from the medical colleagues. Those at the forefront. Yours is just to diagnose. I can't say just. That is the main thing, because they need to know what they are treating. And those in the isolation center, those in the forefront, what's your counsel for them?
Thank you very much. The first thing is, all of them have gone through what is called IPC. It's a training that is required for all those, especially attending to patients. Either you're collecting samples, either you attend to patients. So all of them have gone through the infection prevention control, which is very, very critical. And they were taken through all the steps. And of course, we cannot cut corners. So we have to have our PPEs. The PPEs is the personal protective equipment. That's the word they call, they give that the coinage. Personal protective equipment. We can't cut corners with it. And of course, then we now come to the doorstep of our governments too, the managers. So they have to make sure that all these are prepared, positioned, available where we are to use them. There shouldn't be any excuse. So that's just it. And then, of course, the country too should even go above the usual one that we can't produce. There's nothing we can't produce in the country. We just have to look for the materials.
Exactly.
And be producing here. It's because there are things that we need in millions. Because majority of them are not recyclable.
Sorry, sir, to cut you short there. You see, this program is the Magnate. Now, there is a lot of emphasis on encouraging the manufacturers, the young entrepreneurs. This has brought out a need, a gap that those in the manufacturing industries, you can see the way different face mask has emanated. Don't you think this should now encourage people to bring out, to produce local content, these materials, because I mean it's a lot of need even in other parts of the globe.
Yes, it's that's one of the lessons. So we have to now be able to now think that how do we now come in as a country, as an industrialist, as an entrepreneur, how do we come in to fill the gap? So there are things we have to think around, and we have to make friends with
think outside the box.
I mean, there are things that we need to use. And like I said, you can't reuse it. Once you use it, you have to discard appropriately. And you have to look for a new one. So in a day, in our lab, we consume hundreds of PPE. Because as we go into the laboratory to handle samples, to process, to do this, you have to wear your PPE. And once you soil that one, you can't reuse it. So you just discard. You pass to autoclaving, where they will autoclave before they now take to incinerators. So there are things that we will always be needing in the laboratory. We will always be needing as we attend to patients in the hospital, in the isolation centers. Even where you are going to collect samples, there are things that you have to put on. So that's one of the simplest form of materials we use.
Basic.
And then the reagents that we use too, they are very, very critical. We're talking of sample taking materials. Thank goodness we don't need the blood per se in this very one. So you need swab sticks because you take the sample from the nasal and then from the oropharynx. So then you put them in the medium.
I hear it's very painful.
Well, it's not painful.
That's a little discomfort.
That's just discomfort. But that's a reaction because it's very sensitive. It's the reaction that is painful, but it's the reaction. We have to respond because because when you put something in your
foreign
nose,
objects.
Exactly. So there must be a reaction. So it's not painful, at least just to make you discomfort, just to cause discomfort for as brief as.
Okay, rounding up, sir. We are now being told that the way it started is now gotten to the community level. What does that mean? I say the infection is now at the community level. That's why it's now people coming down with it is so high now. And
thank you very much. When it started from those coming from outside the country.
Okay.
So they are the ones that bring the virus. Number one, because we did not take action.
Take the necessary precautive measure.
To at least close down our airports, close down our borders, because we know that's the route. But granted, our people have to come back home. So, and it started, and majority of them did not even have matters. So my government went all ahead to monitor all those people coming in. Many of them sneaked out, and despite the fact that they carried out what they call it, activities in the plane, asked for manifest and so on, asked about those that were coughing, those that showed some signs and symptoms, and the airliner were able to provide information. And our announcement over our electronic medias and even print media, that people that traveled and board and so airline,
Correct.
they should come up for people did
Yes.
not come in. And then even the information collected from the passengers were fictitious ones. They called severally and nobody responded. And those were those issues that actually allowed the virus to be rampant. You know, they went into the community, and many of them were carrying the virus. And they mingle with people in the community. And before we hold up and look, we see that most people in the community started having signs and symptoms. And so the community's transmission is different from those bringing it from where they were coming from. And we now have more of it in the community. Only few of them come from where they were coming from. And then now most of the people in the community now share from them. And then you can see the upsurge. As we go into the community, we have high numbers of people.
Wow.
And so from few people, now you know, this is community transmission. Because the number will be very high.
Okay. In rounding up, sir, you may want to allude to the number of cases that we have recorded so far, particularly with prominent personalities, vis-a-vis those who are still in a state of denial. Is it because their personality, that is why we hear more of these people? I'm sure we're also recording mortalities from even the ordinary citizens.
Yeah, you've already said it. It's because they are personalities that we always hear of on electronic and print media. And that's why whatever happens to them too, the same media will also carry the information. And we know a lot of things happen with those that are downtrodden masses. Majority of them die. It's only those that are very close to them know that a lot of things are really happening. And people that are still on the state of denial, they should wait. We don't pray that they see what we make them to believe before they now believe. The virus is there and it has come to stay. And that's why we have to be very careful. And where we are seeing cases are those people that have one medical condition or the other. So already their immune system is already tasked, so they cannot protect against the virus machination. So the virus produces a lot of proteins which no other virus has ever produced. So that's why they are now using these proteins to now cause all sorts of havoc. So we don't pray that we fall a victim. If we can still have the people in the front line coming down, and that's to tell us that the virus is there. It's there.
So you say it has come to stay. I'm scared to ask. So how soon do we think this will abate for people to go into normal life and normal living?
Thank you. You know, there was a time malaria just came in. And up till now, we're still battling with malaria. So the virus will come to that level. We've had flu. It will come to that level too. So what we now need to do is to now have special preventive measures. Now people are now looking into vaccine production so that people can be immunized. Then, like I said earlier on, whether that vaccine will be for a longer period or will be for
short term,
it's for the science to tell us. Then, of course, people are looking into drugs. So people are looking into all sorts of things that can mitigate the virus particles.
Okay.
And of course, what we really need is when we have a level of herd immunity in the community. So it's only a few people now that will be exposed. Most people will have had immunity to it, so there won't be any. So if you have it and you don't know you have it.
So the people that are, we are in Lagos, a lot of O1 have seized. So we should just be patient more. Final words, sir. Just a final counsel for people that this is real. You are in the front line. You have seen. You've been to isolation center. You are in the lab.
Yes.
You have been diagnosing.
Yes.
Just counsel everybody.
Thank you very much. I think just to let us know that the virus is very real. The virus is there, and it's no respecter of anybody. And then, of course, and government is trying to give us information, adequate and timely information about the virus. So we need to stick to our media and get all the advice. They are churning out advice on weekly basis, even on daily basis. Lagos State. It's telling all this how far we have gone. This is the number of that tested positive. These are the numbers that are okay that we discharged and so on. And then the number of mortalities is to tell us the progress being made is for us so that we can know that things is really happening with this virus. The virus is there. I can't say more than that. But if you come to the lab, we show you some of our gadgets as we deal with the virus, then maybe you will now know. So the virus is there. So all of us just guard against contacting it and even spreading it. Thank you.
Professor Sunday Aremu Omilabu, a virologist of repute, a director, Central Research Laboratory, Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Thank you very much, sir, for having me to our call. I don't know when we'll get you again, but we are really grateful that you could, oblige our call this time. The Magnate, that's the program it has been, even though we have conversed on medical, that is coronavirus, the pandemic. We needed to also be socially responsible so that we can enlighten you, our regular viewers, on this program. I'm sure you have taken tips on what we have brought you on this program and the previous one. Remember, the program is the Magnate. We always bring out the business in you, which we have even also alluded to on this program. Join us. We have made a promise that in a few episodes, we are going to look at all the sides of this coronavirus so that we just guard against it. It is who is alive that will think of business, that will think of any other thing, or even entertainment. Hearken to all the advice and counsel of the experts so that we can be alive to enjoy tomorrow. Join us same time next week when we shall bring you a fresh edition of The Magnate. Until then, stay safe and bye for now.